Hi, I'm Nick Bonora, Director of Purdue Conferences. I'm also a certified event designer with the Event Design Collective and designated as a mastermind with that organization. One of the things that they like to say is that a good conversation can shift the direction of change forever. Would you leave that to chance? It's a good question. I'm going to ask you to hold on to that while we jump into this presentation. We're going to take a look at the event design process and how that fits into creative event design and the timeline of an event. So let's go over to the whiteboard and take a look at that. When we get started, we can go ahead and agree together that a circus tent is a good representation of what an event is. It's kind of a universally accepted symbol that says this is an event, this is where things take place. So we're going to use that in this presentation today. So we have our event, tent. And the event is really where we take people, at least two individuals, that are going to go into this event and experience something. Most of the time, it's multiple groups of people that we like to call stakeholders that are going to come together and they're going to go into this event and have some sort of experience that changes them. All of the different stakeholders, of course, have different needs, wants, desires as they go into the tent, but through the process, they come out transformed in some way, shape, or better afterwards. And how we get there is through design. Now, typically, when we look at an event, everything that happens in the tent, this is the action phase. This is where all of the pieces come together and the event actually takes place. We also, a lot of times, refer to this as production. And that's taking all of the pieces, putting them together, and the event is happening. Your stakeholders are there, they're learning, they're changing, and that's what's happening inside the tent. The phase right before production is the planning phase. And this is typically where most of our customers engage with us at Purdue Conferences. It's looking at the who, what, when, where, and how, and putting all of those pieces together so that we have a plan that goes into production. We can't take action without a plan, and that's what happens at this phase. Now, the phase immediately preceding that, and what we really want to talk about here today, is design. And that's where we get involved in the 14-box event design canvas. And we use that tool to design out the process of your event. Planning is where we talk about the who, what, when, where, and how. The design is when we get into the why. Why are you having the event? What are the outcomes that you're hoping for? What ultimately do you want to change in the behavior of your stakeholders when they go into your event? The design process helps us articulate how they're going to be better when they come out of that event. Now, we don't only have the most immediate event on the horizon to look at when we're doing the design process. A lot of times what we can do is we look back into the past and the design parameters around previous events and the delta that occurred or the delta that didn't occur based on those events as we look back in time. Now, the farther back in time we go, those recollections tend to get a little bit hazy because time has evolved, people have changed, and communities have moved on. But as we audit the past up to the present event that we're planning for, this is the analysis phase. Analysis is always looking into the past, saying, what have we done? What was the design delta behind those things? What changes did or did not occur to get us to where we are today? And that takes the noise and the spaghetti mess, as we like to say, of all the different wants, needs, desires, and competing thoughts about the event and braids them all together into a cohesive plan that takes us into the event. Now back to that question. Would you leave that conversation to chance? Because you might be looking at this and saying, that's great, but I don't do events. So how does this apply? Well, that's where we can take what's happening in this tent and apply it to whatever project it is that you're about to embark on, an initiative that you have where you want to affect change and impact in the future. So we take what happens in the tent, which is the most immediate event, but we look down the road and say, what's next on the horizon? What happens in 16 months? What happens in 2 years? What happens in 5 years, 10 years? All the way up to the cathedral thinking on the mountaintop, to ultimately, how do you want to impact the world around you, and how do you get there? And so as soon as we get into the design phase or start having that conversation with you, we take that all the way up to that mountaintop, and this is strategy. Analysis is in the past, strategy exists in the future. And through the design process, we can look at your stakeholders, whatever area that is that you're involved in, the project that you're about to embark on, the initiative that you have, what it is about society that you want to change in order to make it better for the future. We plug all of that in and we can design the beginning of that initiative, that project, but then we can also work with you to create design deltas that are going to continually change your stakeholders far into the future. So that ultimately, when you arrive at the end, when you're on that mountaintop, you've affected the change and people are better in the way that you want them to behave as having engaged with you along your journey. So, if you don't want to leave that conversation to chance, I hope that you'll reach out to us. We'd be happy to sit down with you and talk through this process and be able to help you as you design your societal impact, your events, as you move into the future.